Qantas and Virgin are on track to record one of their worst on-time performances after more than half of all domestic flights were delayed or cancelled last week. Virgin cancelled 14.7% of flights and only 43% were on time. Qantas cancelled 6.7% of domestic flights and only 44% were on time. The growing delays happened during the busy holiday period and were aggravated by illness among airline and traffic control staff. Joining me live now is the Chief Executive at the Tourism and Transport Forum, Margy Osmond. Margy, great to see you. We thought we were going to have these halcyon days of tourism and travel back. Perhaps that was looking at this through rose-coloured glasses. There are so many problems across the industry at the moment.
Look, I think it's still great news that people are willing to travel. A lot of the problems that we're seeing at the moment here in Australia are in no way unique to Australia. They are happening all over the world. It is a serious problem for the aviation industry globally, and that's what makes it such a difficult one to solve, because where do you get the replacements from when everybody's feeling the pain? The other part of this is, of course, as we're rolling into winter, we've got lots of crew on these aircraft and in the airports themselves who are coming down with either flu or COVID. And that, of course, is exacerbating the situation.
Yeah, it certainly is. And look, I've got great sympathy for anyone in the logistics part of an airline at the moment trying to work all of this out. But travellers will know that travelling is so expensive at the moment as well, and you're kind of not getting the product you were used to pre-COVID. Do we just have to put up with this for a while?
Look, I wish there was another way of saying this, but unfortunately, this is the new world of travel, and I think it's with us for a little while. It's not here permanently, but it is going to take time until we get those warm bodies back into the industry. This is pretty much what travel's going to look like for the next 12 months, maybe 18 months. You know, when you've got a situation where the airports themselves are having open days to attract staff, and of course in the airline and security space, it takes time to train those people even when they come on board. And I think lots of people say, well, didn't you see this coming? Why didn't you deal with it last year before people really got keen on travelling again?
Yeah.
In many instances, both the airports and the airlines have been attempting to recruit people since the second half of last year. And this is just unfortunately the nature of the beast. And the tourism industry is suffering more than most, and therefore travellers are suffering more than most, simply because we lost so many more staff than any other sector.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, Labor is holding this job summit in September for the tourism and travel industry. It's going to be so important, absolutely. Look, I feel sorry for the new Labor government in many ways, because they're dealing with legacy issues that I think the previous government should have sorted out before the election. But I mean, there doesn't seem to be a huge sense of urgency either. Is that right?
Well, look, I'd have to say, you know, from the new government's perspective, I think they've clocked the fact that this is not just an issue of not enough people. It's a structural issue, and they have already begun conversations across the board with industry. My understanding is they've set up a special group within Treasury to work very particularly on jobs and skills and to get this job summit together for the, second half of this year. And it will take time, because nobody wants a get-together, with all due respect, for the TV cameras. We actually want a process here that might come, have it at its peak, the job summit, but there's a huge amount of work that needs to be done around this in both the short term, medium and long term. So I actually give the current government credit for not racing into this publicly, but behind the scenes there's quite a bit of action going on.
Okay, that is good news, Margy, and we'll take your word for it. So, okay, I've just come back from London. It was a long flight. Economy is still economy. Business is still business. Wasn't in the top half of the plane. That is the way it is. But I would say that as I was in some of the tourist parts of London before I was working when the Prime Minister got rolled, there are the same problems. There are shop fronts with, looking for workers. There are delays at airports. So it is worldwide. I don't think that's comforting for everyone, but we're all in it together in a sense.
We are, and I think it sort of complicates the solution, because you can't just reach out to other countries and get workers from other countries because they're in the same space. I talked to my colleague CEOs in the US and in New Zealand and in Canada, Singapore, It is a uniform problem. And I think, unfortunately, it is going to be a bit painful for travellers in the short to medium term. But I would say this, Australian travellers deserve a big gold star because they have got into the swing of understanding about the queues, knowing they've got to get there earlier, remembering again about what should and should not be in their bags. And look, in the main, people are being very patient because they know they will get where they need to go and that this will be a passing thing.
Let's hope so, Margy. Thanks so much for your time as always.
My pleasure,
Fingers crossed.